Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we're going to be taking a look at a gold rated power supply, which is very small, from Silverstone, the ST65F-GS. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at this. This is the Silverstone ST65F-GS. This is the Silverstone Strider range and this is 650 watt. Now there are other wattages available in this range. There's a 550, 650 and a 750. And also if you're feeling a little bit extravagant and you've got a few reddies handy, then they also do a platinum version of these as well. So if you want a little bit higher efficiency, then platinum is always an option. But as you know, for me, being in the kind of the budget area of the spectrum or the kind of value for money area is where I like to be at. And for me, 650 watts seems to be more than ample. This actually, at its 50% load, is at its very peak of efficiency, around 93% efficiency over here in the UK on our 230 volt system. Most of my systems are going to be running around about that kind of region, about 320, 350 watts, that kind of thing. So this is actually going to be super efficient for me, and I didn't really see the need to go to platinum. So anyway, that's enough of that waffle. Let's take a look at the box, look at the specs, and then we'll take it out and see what we actually get. So first of all, onto the packaging. Now for me, the packaging actually looks pretty decent. I quite like it. I was a little bit concerned at first about some of the accent colours on the power supply itself, but again, we'll go into that in a minute when we open the box. As you can see, Strider Gold Series 650 watt. It's the world's smallest fully modular ATX power supply, which I actually thought about that for a while and I was like, why would you actually want a small power supply? But there is actually a very good reason. Now, a lot of modern cases now where they have power supply basements, you often have hard drive caddies in the bottom as well, which if you're a builder and you're building with various different types of cases, cheap ones, medium, expensive, no matter what it is, you quite often find there's a little bit of kind of lacking space down there. So having a smaller power supply is a trade-off, because obviously with a smaller power supply there are other things that need to be done inside to keep efficiency, thermals, all that kind of stuff going. So you do lose out slightly on thermals, but what you lose on thermals you definitely gain on usability, especially in these smaller chassis. So moving around to the sides, not a great deal, but they've certainly got their money's worth out of the ST65F-GS logo. It is pretty much everywhere you look. So on this side actually we've got some more details about the specifications. So colour is black, we're using lead-free paint, which yeah, is pretty important, I guess. Cooling system is a single 120mm silent fan. Noise level is 18 decibels, it is minimum rating, so that's at 20% fan speed, I would presume, being that is its lowest rotational speed, 20%. The weight is 1.28 kilos, if that's important to you. Dimensions, now this is what may be actually quite important to some of you, especially if you, like I said earlier, going for those smaller systems. Dimensions, we've got 150mm wide, which is the standard ATX size for width. 86mm height, which again, standard size, but the depth, 140mm, that actually is tiny, and when I take it out of the box, you'll see exactly what I mean. Generally, most power supplies around this kind of wattage would be 150, 160, some of them like 180s, so this is actually tiny for what it is. The MTBF is 100,000 hours, so that should last you quite a long time. I'm not too sure how long that is in years, but I'll work it out and I'll put it up over here somewhere. And the operating temperature is 0 to 40 degrees C. Now, under testing, not that I did myself, but this has been done by Johnny Guru, and I'll put some link in the description below. Johnny Guru is a place I always go to for power supply reviews. I find he does a fantastic job and is really kind of quite critical about things. And actually, he gave this a very good review, 80% out of 100. So for him, that's actually pretty generous and pretty good. So that's what made me think about this as a good power supply. It actually compares very well to the EVGA G3. Again, similar sort of price, similar sort of specifications, although this is a bit smaller, and you do get some other nicer features with this, which we'll go into in a little bit later when we unbox it. But to run it 40 degrees C, 24/7 at 650 watts or 54 amp load, it's actually pretty impressive. And talking about the amps and the load, so actually we've got our details here. So maximum output 650 watts, the 3.5 rail and the 5 rail, you're looking 20 amps and 20 amps, so 100 watts in total. On the 12 volt rail, we're looking at 54 amps, so 648 watts. And from that, you can tell there is just a single 12 volt rail, so that is quite a nice thing to see. So we've waffled on enough about the specs. Let's take it out of the box and see what we actually get. Actually, this is quite a weighty box. There's quite a lot of stuff in here. One thing I did notice, actually, the gauge of the cables, it's actually quite a thick gauge cable, so they're good quality cables, which again is nice to see, especially at this kind of price point. Now, speaking of price point, at the moment you can get these in the UK for around about the £75 mark, £75. They have come up on offers on Amazon's for about £55 to £60 in some cases. So if you're using something like Honey or Camel, put an alert in there. So if you are looking for one of these when they come out at some really good prices, you can certainly pick up a bargain on one of these. So inside the box, we've got our warranty information. Now, warranty information is going to be specific to whichever region you're in. If you're buying pretty much anywhere in the world, guaranteed a 1-year warranty from the retailer. If you're in Europe, you've got 2 years. Some parts of Americas, etc., a 5-year warranty on this. But again, I'll put some links in the description below to the Silverstone website so you can check out the warranty in your area to see specifically how it affects you. We got some writing in Chinese, not a clue what that is. We've got a power supply manual, and that goes through again in great depth about the power supply, how it's built, the connectivity, all that kind of stuff. And actually, one thing I will say about this, documentation wise, is fantastic. There's a lot of information on the box, in the pamphlets, on the power supply itself, all that kind of stuff. Again, another pamphlet telling you how the timings work inside the unit. There's a lot of information there, so if you're not sure, it is definitely all in here. That should keep even the most nerdy of people happy for a little while. So let's have a look at the power supply itself. Now actually, the power supply inside the box is actually the smallest compartment in that box. The largest compartment is actually the cabling. So the power supply itself comes in a nice bubble wrap to keep it nice and safe. And as you can see, this thing is tiny. So that's a 120mm fan, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a gap on the side there. So 120mm and about another sort of 20mm on the side, maybe just slightly under. I think it's 150, 157, I think I said earlier, as the standard width of an ATX power supply. So nice fan. It's a sleeve bearing fan, so not perfect, but again, perfectly usable. And you've got a nice ventilation grill on there to let airflow through the system. On the back side, you've got the connection for your kettle lead type connector, and you've got a separate power switch, which feels very sturdy and all that kind of stuff, as you'd expect again at this sort of price point. There's a honeycomb mesh on here, which is really good for airflow, better than circular design. So airflow isn't going to be a problem. I have actually powered this up and put it just on a dummy test. The fan is very quiet, and there's a decent amount of airflow coming through here, so it's going to keep all the internal circuitry nice and cool. Not a great deal on this side. Now this is where it starts getting interesting. So this is the modular side for your connections. Now this is fully modular, so you can get away with using as little cables as you possibly want to. The rest of the unit is blanked off, so you've got these nice little blanking tabs, and these just pop out. So if you're using one of the connectors, then you can keep it open. If you're not, then you can put the blanking plate on there to keep things neat and to stop it getting dust and dirt and all that kind of stuff. So I'll go ahead and take these all off a second. So let's run through the connectors. So these two at the top here are for the main motherboard connection. So that's a 24-pin connector, and they split it down into two sections so they can get the most stable power possible through there by using a combination of different outputs on the actual PSU itself. Over here you've got your 8-pin connector for the CPU power, EPS rather, EPS 8-pin. Moving along the side, you've got this one, the blues. These are all for your PCI Express. So you've noticed on here you actually got 4 outputs, which is a slight upgrade from what you'd see on the EVGA G3, which has only got 2 outputs and then uses a doubler actually on the cable itself to allow the power if you wanted to use 2 graphics cards, which for some people isn't ideal. They prefer to have a separate power output for each individual input on the graphics card. So obviously if you're going to be using 2 graphics cards in a system, then this is going to be absolutely perfect for you. Again, an individual cable for each one. Or maybe you're using some kind of mining rig and you've got 4 graphics cards and you want to power all 4 at the same time, then again, that is a possibility. Further on down, we've got 2 lots of connectors for your SATA and also for your older fashioned accessories on Molex connectors, that kind of thing. They are actually interchangeable, so if you wanted to plug in 4 SATA connectors, you could actually purchase another 2 additional cables and use those, so you could connect a multitude of drives if you saw fit. But plenty of options there for connectivity. Last thing on this side is again our logo and giving you all the wattages, etc, etc. So like I said, Silverstone ST65F-GS 650 watt gold plus. Yeah, quite a nice design. I quite like it. So that's enough of that. Let's have a look at the cabling we get. So we get an actual mountain of cabling in here. So the first one is the CPU power, the main 24 pin, and this cable in is comparatively to the Rio Toro power supplies I've been using previously, and I've got a couple of Cooler Master ones as well, and I think I've got a Gigabyte one as well. This cabling actually seems a lot thicker, a lot stronger, much heavier gauge, which sometimes is going to hinder wiring, but actually is a good thing in general for your components and also for resistance and all that kind of things. Now, talking of actually resistance, this power supply has actually got really good ripple suppression, so it's rated as being around 3%. So ripple suppression is actually fantastic, and that's on the 3.3, 5 volt and 12 volt. So really good power supply as regard to sort of a nice stable power delivery, which is essentially what we all need to stop the PC either crashing, overheating, or any kind of damage to any of your components. So a nice smooth strong current is what we're always looking for. So back to the cable. So we've got the nice flat ribbon cables, which I personally am a big fan of, and nice black connectors on there, so we've got no ketchup and mustard showing, which is great. So that is the main power for the motherboard itself, and the rest of this. Now this is one thing I would have liked to have seen a little bit better, maybe some sort of bag or individually wrapped cables, but again, you don't see that when it's inside your PC powering it all. What you want is good quality cabling, good quality power supply. I'd much rather have that over a bag to put my cables in. So PCI Express wise, we've got 4 of these cables. And so you've got the blue termination that goes into the back of the power supply itself. So that's not going to be a problem for builds for color coordination, unless obviously your power supply is visible inside, which might be a little bit off-putting, but hey ho. So nice flat ribbon cable, and it terminates into a PCIe Express 6-pin, and you've got the 4-pin, or sorry, rather the 8-pin option on the end, which just fixes into place as it does normally on most of these power supplies. No problems at all. Looks quite nice. And as far as cable management goes, if you're using a graphics card which is just using a single 8-pin, which a lot of the more modern ones are now, this is actually going to look really nice, and you're not going to have that extra supplementary cable hanging around and not knowing what to do with it. So like I said, you get 4 of these in the box. So you can either choose to reuse 2 very high-end graphics cards, or 4 lower-end graphics cards, or combinations of all that, depending on what you're wanting to do. And moving down to the more utility cables, so we have got, so you've got the Molex cable, so there's 3 Molex connectors and a floppy drive cable on that end. Then we've got another SATA connection. So again, nice long cables, so if you're doing a build and a bigger PC, then this is going to be great. And on the SATA cables, you've got 4 connectors, and let's see if they all up the same way. Yeah, all of those are facing the same direction. That sometimes bothers me, that some of the SATA connectors, one of them is the dog leg is one side, one is the other, so you get like a twist in the cable if you've got a group of drives that you're connecting in series or parallel, or whichever it is. Next cable, we've got another one of the Molex connector, sorry, another SATA connector. So 4 connectors on there, so up to 8 drives possible straight out of the box. And here we have another Molex and floppy drive cable, so you can have 2 floppy drives if you wanted to. Why you'd want to, I don't know, but it's there. And last one is the EPS power for your motherboard. So again, nice and neat. Again, it's the nice black cabling, ribbon cabling, so nice and easy to cable manage and nice and easy to fit into a build with minimum fuss. Obviously, if you wanted to, being this is fully modular, you could go along to one of the cable mod companies and get a completely new set of cables from start to finish. So if you wanted to do that, you could quite easily do that. Obviously, it's going to add price to your build, but if you want to go for a build which looks absolutely stunning and you've got access to see where the power supply actually is in the case, maybe you do want to have color-coded power supply cables. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But I think that's pretty much a good time to wrap things up there. This has been the Silverstone Strider Gold S-Series 650 watt power supply, the ST65F-GS. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.